drifted alarmingly in the betting was, Fancy in the morning continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Burns.
The ground is soft. It's
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
And a very warm welcome to the Barsters Inquiry Sunday Sermon. Yes, we're back in full tilt this week. Obviously, last week we missed the Friday show, but we're not missing any more shows now, and we're going full steam ahead into the autumn. And just to bring you some firecrackers for tonight, the usual two are here, John Lang and Lorne Malvo from Twitter. Chris, good evening to you and John, but also welcome to you tonight, Garage Norris. I see. Listen, wait. When you've had as much gin as me, and these.
I'm 3 bottles of cider in now. I'm up for this now tonight. I'm up for this.
Apologies to people of Ireland straight away. I'm really sorry.
Yeah. I've tried. I really do try. And then someone will say, "No, you've got that wrong again." So it's a busy show this week because we're mainly talking about betting, which is what the game should be about. ITV, if you're listening, this is what the game's about, not gin, fashion, and hats and trousers. And, Charlie Mann never did any good just because he wore plum cords. So it's all about betting. And we're going to start the show off because I see you've got some cracking stuff, really, in terms of a potential each-way multiple autumn punt.
I never said each way.
Right. No, this is it. I know, but our listeners are like.
I don't want to hang anyone. It's not my style. No. But someone on this call did send me a message today saying, "Don't mention them on the pod tonight. Fucking parasite listeners." Now, I'm not going to say who sent me that. Sorry. But Chris, do you want to comment on that? Or?
Brass. Fucking tout. You are a tout. Fucking hell.
This is a disgrace.
Oh my God. It just shows you, doesn't it? It just shows you.
Parasites can be very helpful in nature.
The film Parasite was good, but anyway, carry on.
Did you mention the dick pic I sent you as well? Do you want to talk about that?
No. Okay, I'm done.
Chris, you didn't show him one with the ring in, did you?
Yeah, obviously. Makes it bigger as well. Anyway, carry on.
I see, go for it. Tell me what you've got for our listeners.
Okay, so I think there's actually like Coral Ladbrokes at the minute. If anyone has an account with them, there's an absolute take out the lot multiple available anti-post. I'll give them to you in order of strength, right? So Irish Cesaro, which it's on next Sunday, it's 600 grand. Obviously there's going to be God knows how many horses plotted for this, but as we know from the jumps, the problem with having these big pots now is that you can't get enough horses to be non-runners, if that makes sense. So any horse that's rated kind of runs, so the race becomes less competitive. Even though that sounds like a contradiction because you've got a lot of exposed horses in these races. I think the Ebor is a fair example as well. The Ebor now has become, you can't really plot a horse for the Ebor because you have to be rated within such a niche band in the handicap. But anyway, there's an absolute blot in the race. Now he's number 50 on the list. It's hard to say whether he'll get a run. I just think that they have enough scope with horses that they can withdraw enough horses that this thing could get in. But Waterville is 8-1 with Ladbrokes. Carl, I would back this horse at 4-1 for this race. He's completely unexposed. He's rated 99. He doesn't want 2 miles. He needs 2 miles. Like he's completely like they started him off the year aiming him at the Derby. Now he's rated 99 and they've realised he's a stayer. So if this thing gets in, I don't think I'm getting carried away saying this could go off 5-2 because it's so well handicapped, it's so unexposed. It's against horses that, they've all shown their hand as such. Now the other thing as well is because it's a handicap, it's a ballot, you're essentially getting non-runner no bet here. So there's no real risk if this doesn't run. So if the bookmakers actually thought about this, what price would they be this horse?
So basically how it works in Ireland. So let's say they enter Waterville and then he's just belted out, then
Well,
obviously...
he is entered, unless, like, the only thing that could possibly go wrong is if they take him out at the 5-day stage. But they've already said in the Irish field that he's doing his last bit of work tomorrow, and then they won't make a decision. But I mean, they like this has obviously been the aim for this horse. I mean, this couldn't be more obvious. And he's 8 to 1, 7 to 1, 6 to 1, whatever, 92. I mean, he's a bet at all those prices, because if he gets in Ryan Moore riding completely unexposed, he's a 5 to 2 shot in my head, even though it's a 30-runner handicap, because so much of the field will be just dead wood.
He was a massive talking horse earlier in the year for this yard. I mean,
he's just slow, isn't he? He's just slow.
Do you know what I reckon? I reckon he's one of them horses. I sound like James Willoughby, but he's one of them that just gallops at sort of 12 seconds, and can keep doing it forever.
Yeah, and if you look at his last run, he went off 7 to 4 against Point King, and he had to give Point King £2, and he was beat a half length. Now watch the race back. I mean, I don't think they were bothered. I don't think they were too bothered that day. And I mean, Point King now is rated. He's rated 102 now. I think he was off 100 that day, and he went off 11 to 4 on Champions Weekend in a Group 3. So this horse off 99, it's just a complete blot. But it's just like you are sweating on whether he gets in or not. Now I thought a few weeks ago 24 get in, but it's actually 30 get in, and it's a stall start. So.
I love this.
It used to be a tape start, which makes it more random, obviously. So I mean, if it's a stall start, this thing gets a run. I just think he wins. I'm not sure there's a price I'd want to lay about him for the Cesaro, but like we're going to know Wednesday the 5-day decks, how likely he is to get in. But you are essentially getting an under no bet. This is a bit like the Shrewds on Twitter. Do you remember the Sam Crow 10 to 1 Supreme? This is that, but actually a proper bet.
Yeah, and the thing that you've got as well is Leopardstown's not his track, because you're on the turn coming in. It's a fairly short straight. There's a lot of horses quickening off that turn. That's just not him. And I just think at the Curragh, you've just got more time. It literally is a big loping galloper, like you said, completely unexposed really over staying trips, and has got.
I think John kind of half fancied him for the Ledger, didn't he?
Yeah, well, he were entered in the Ledger, and he's had some fancy entries all year. I mean, they were thinking this could be the one, and you could imagine at home if he can just gallop on the bridle, say at 12 seconds a furlong or whatever, without being pushed. They might, that you can see why that might have fooled them, thinking this has got an engine, and I reckon that's why he's turned into this potentially. I mean, it could be they've got Kyprios, but who knows? Like
no. If you want to go mental, he's 50 to 1 for the Stayers race at Ascot. No, Kyprios won't run there, and you don't chance a good horse on bad ground twice. So I mean, he won his race on Ledger on the soft ground. I don't think they'll ever run Kyprios on bad ground again. If that, he doesn't want it. He wants good ground. But they kind of feel like they're obliged to support the Irish Classic. So that's probably why they read him at Ascot. Or the Curragh, the Ledger.
So number one in Icy's life-changing Yankees Waterville. Let's go on to number 2.
Okay, right. This one is it's close between the two, which I fancy more. I can't believe the price of this one either. So we all obviously watched Champions Weekend. What did you think of Above the Curve?
I was incredibly impressed. Obviously, the horse was in my sort of 5 to follow for the flat season. But yeah, absolutely massively on the up. Has done fantastically well physically. Definitely going forward. Yeah. Yeah,
and like she saw off Le Petit Coco, we'll say earlier in the straight, and then she's had to see off Sinuendo then closing in and stuck its neck out on the line. I mean, it was a really, really taking performance. And of course, they come out afterwards and they've said they were a bit surprised because they thought she'd apparently blown up in her first piece of work. And I mean, Joseph was just openly saying, "Oh well, this was just a stepping stone to the pre-opera on Art Day, where she's a course and distance winner." So I was out with a friend of mine that Sunday night, and he's a very good judge. And I just said to him, "Jesus, I actually can't wait to back this Above the Curve at 5 to 2 or something like that for the race in Longchamp, because it's just it's a pretty weak division, isn't it? So when I see she was chalked up 7 and 6 to 1, I just couldn't believe it. It's like they're not paying attention, are they? I mean, what filly have you looked at the betting? What filly would you be worried about in that race?
She should be 5. I mean, should be clear 5, and that.
Because she definitely runs. I mean, they've openly said that was her target, even before Leopardstown. So, I mean, how she's 6 and 7 to 1, I just don't know.
Yeah, no, she has done really well. I mean, that race at the Curragh was a very good race, and the tenacity as well. I love fillies with that attitude.
Oh, she stuck her neck out right on the line, didn't she?
Yeah, just and that's something you can't when you go to the sales or you breed them, you can't buy that. That's something you can buy the ability, you can buy the genes, but you can't buy that mental tenacity which she showed there at Longchamp. At Curragh. So yeah, totally agree on that one. That's number 2 in IC's Yankee. So Waterville Irish Cesarovich, Above the Curve, the Prix L'Opera.
And again, like Above the Curve, every single price on Odds Checker, I would take all of them. You know what I mean? This isn't like, I'd want 6s this or I'd want 5s. I would take every price that's on Odds Checker at the minute. And the next 2 then are a bit more speculative. The Cesarewitch in Newmarket, Lot of Joy. Do you remember there was big chat about this horse before Galway, rated 91 or 92. Won the Swedish Ledger, and Willie Mullins is training it, and you're just like, it could be £20 wrong, it could be £20 well in, you just don't know. But big eye catcher at Galway, and I'm assuming it's going to go to Newmarket. But the problem is, it is number 36 on the list for the Irish Cesarewitch, and will he be able to non this for a 600k race? I don't know. So I'll put this one in this context. If this isn't in the 5-day decks for the Irish Cesarewitch on Wednesday, then this is an all-in job for Newmarket.
Galway, for me, would not really have suited. And the position,
oh God, no.
I mean, the position where she was, I thought she did really well.
Yeah, and look, Willie obviously wants to, like, he targets these races, and this is obviously, there's obviously a plan with this horse. Now, I just hope it's not in the Curragh on Sunday, and if it's not, then I really want to be on it for Newmarket.
So lots of joy. Newmarket is the 3rd leg of Icy's Autumn Yankee. What's the final one? The big. The final leg is this one's probably a bit thin, to be fair, but Castle Star for the British Sprint. So the horse had a long layoff all year. I mean, he was a real talking horse going into this year. I mean, people thought people thought that this thing could be a proper sprinter. I mean, the Commonwealth Cup was being touted for this horse. So he's been an on-runner a couple of times on suitable ground, temperature. You could forgive him his first run back. Now, have you watched back his run the last day?
Yes.
It's a bit of a shocker of a ride, isn't it? It's a bit of a shocker, isn't it? I mean, I don't know. I mean, look, it's Spencer or whatever, but
he had to shut, didn't he, for starters?
But you can basically write off his 2 runs this year, and you go back to his last run last year. He's finishing a half length behind Perfect Power on ground that he doesn't want. He doesn't want good to firm ground. He wants digging the ground. So I mean, if this has nowhere else to go but Ascot, so this rocks up on Champions Day, and it's soft ground. I mean, what price is he? He's not a 33 shot. He's not a 25 shot either.
No,
it is speculative. But I mean, that race can end up, I don't know, 9 runners, 12 runners, whatever. I mean, he Spencer will drop him in and try and come with his run or whatever. I mean, he's got a live chance in that race. He's definitely not a 33 shot.
Fantastic. So that's the kickers off on this show, folks. I hope you're listening, because there's some great cases there. And I'm particularly taken, obviously, like me, who loves a fav. I love Icy's case for Waterville and Above the Curve. That's a square price. The double, if you can get on at the right price, is going to pay somewhere in the region of 40 to 1.
Yeah, I'd be very strong on those two. Very strong.
Yeah, 40s for the double. So if you didn't fancy being speculative, I mean, you could stick the other two in an each way double and then have an each way lucky 50, a small each way lucky 15 a lot. But yeah, I mean, this is like coming back to IC's betting rules, which will come on to the later in the show on betting pointers. You know, it's always good to throw in these multiples because as regular punters, you know what's going to be life changing the day when you do hit the 4 winners at great odds, and it will happen at some point. So everyone in their life, you will land a nice lucky 15 or whatever, and you'll regret not having, you know, more on it, or you've gone a bit weak, and you know, and that's it. That's the life changing stuff. Cracking start to the show then. John, have you anything for this autumn? Maybe going forward that you got your eye on for some big races?
I wasn't like expecting it, to be honest, but I'll give you one that I am hoping to see out in the autumn and expecting to step up a lot on each one run. And that's a horse of the Fetuses, actually, called Atlantic Chart. Okay. Made a inauspicious start, really, at Leopardstown over a mile in July. I was very taken with the horse. Scopy, good size belt. Really caught the eye pre-race. Incredibly immature during the race. Only went off 4-1 as well, which I thought indicated maybe thought a bit about the horse. Quite like the pedigree, dancing mare. I think that might just have a big performance in it in the autumn in one of the big maidens at the Curragh or something like that. Might sort of burst on the scene a little bit.
Good stuff, John. Not like that. Alec Mansfield commented today on our timeline, and it shows you. Even I watch most races, and I just never seem to notice this. Maybe because I was blinded by Tahir in the Moidlare. But he said, "Watch Never Ending Story."
Yeah. Okay,
it was travelling so just as well as Tahira at that point. Now, he wouldn't have beaten Tahira because I don't think it would have had the gears that Tahira had. But the point for me was you know, it was extremely unlucky. I mean, this horse really should have finished a lot closer. It probably would have been, you know, a clear third best. I'd love to find info on this because obviously it's entered in the Rockfell and the Fillies Mile. I think it's 7-1 for the Rockfell. I think it's 10-1 for the Fillies Mile. But Never Ending Story, I would, if only I knew that's the bet. I mean, especially in the Rockfell. For me, it dots up in the Rockfell. If you look at the runners, I genuinely believe if they choose the Rockfell, it wins the Rockfell. It just wins.
Someone suggested to me that they might go back to France with that.
Interesting.
No, like that. I'm not basing that on anything, but it's just strange that price for the Fillies Mile hasn't gone.
Yeah, because like you say,
it's still there. It's almost too good to be true, isn't it?
Yeah. So maybe just a watching brief. Like you said, I don't want punters to lose the money, but
yeah, but it's definitely one you want to be on next time.
It's certainly a lot better than what it's shown. You know, or what it was able to produce that day in the Moidlare. And as we know, I like races that have a good shape to them. I like the Gimcrack. I like the Moidlare. I like Little Big Bear. Them for me are the three key. I think those are the three key races. Like Meditate. You know, Meditate is a fantastic filly. I think they were shocked when Tahira went past. You know, you can see the lads. They'd have been sat there saying, "How was that done? How was that quickened past us? Like we're stood still." Because I think she's a very smart filly. So, and she's got the size at the moment to keep on showing her form this autumn. So interesting. He also goes on to say Sakia, that was impressive on Saturday. John, I'll ask you on this. If you own Sakia, would you run in the Middle Park or Dewhurst?
Neither.
Really? Okay.
John's dead inside. He'd bring her out like Nicky Richards does with his novice hurdlers like a year later, and you know, find a little novice race for it. You know,
I'd be straight at the Guineas. Straight at the Guineas.
Is that what you'd do?
Yeah.
Well, if I think they'll go Dewhurst because I think like Harry Potter said after the race, he said he
can't fucking resist, can they?
Yeah, he said he's got a lot of speed. This blah blah. But they'll go Dewhurst because the thing is they'll need to know what chance they have of getting the mile if there's any issue, and that's why I think they'll try the Dewhurst. To be honest, like the Dewhurst, I've looked at the prominent runners. There's some nice horses, but there's nothing in there I'd be particularly frightened of this year. I don't look at the Dewhurst like in recent years and think that's going to be tough to win. I could be wrong on this, but yeah, I'm not really a fan.
I'd only run in Dewhurst if I was after selling him over winter.
Yeah.
Depressing, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a depressing show. It's what we do. We moan. Johnny Two's been on, and he's correct on this. Engelbert in the 107 at Newbury on Friday. James Ferguson's runner. What an eye catcher that was. Absolutely shaped brilliantly. That would be my Jimmy Lindley. I just like the fact that the season Havana Grey's having. Only 6,000 quid at stud. And this is the cheap man's dream, isn't it? We can't go to the big sires if you're a syndicate owner or whatever. You're literally going for the more moderate stuff. And Havana Grey this year have produced Mary Lindsay, Lady Hollywood, and should have been a ring. It's not bad sport that for 6 bags. And this is another one that that was the better of the Newbury maidens on Friday. And you can guarantee that's going to win a maiden or dot up in a maiden, probably a normal track or whatever. And what's that worth? So that's a sire that might need looking at. Obviously, I don't think you'll get it for $6,000 next year, maybe not. But still, if you get it for sort of 10 or less, that's the dream to send your mares to Havana Grey. Get the 2-year-old. Seems to be flying. I'm going to move on to betting pointers. A few have been asking these questions about, give pointers to punters and stuff like that. And I see you came up with the thread of threads really a long time ago. It's one of the best threads I've ever read, to be honest. And I'm not blowing smoke, but I'm just being honest.
No, it's brilliant.
It
was brilliant.
I've been betting for many years, and I'm not foolish enough to dismiss anyone that's younger or anything. I'm not one of these people that go, what experience have you got in the game and all this rubbish. This was a really good thread. I agreed with, like you say, many points, and probably all of them. Some big professional punter that we can't name disagree with one of them. But anyway, that's that. Yeah, but
was it me?
Was
it me who disagreed?
No,
not that big then.
No, you just send dick pics.
Yeah. Myself.
Dick pics for info.
Will humiliate myself for inside information.
Yeah. You do anything. Does anything for inside info. Yeah.
Yeah. Work riders, listen out. Send me anything you got. Yeah.
Walks down the docks. Anything.
Yeah. That's market WhatsApp groups. Get me on them. Yeah.
But yeah, betting pointers. So I mean, I see you still in Twitter jail at the moment.
Yeah, I'm on a nice vacation. It's nice actually because I wake up in the morning now and I don't think, oh God, what did I tweet last night? So it's good. So I'm in a lovely peace of mind, I'm real happy to me. I think I'm out for another 5 days. So if you need me, DM me. Otherwise, you're not getting a reply.
No. It's like me. You can tell my gin arguments on Twitter. Everyone can. It's so obvious. But yeah, me and Lorne Malvo are still trying to get banned. We can't manage to do it. And John, you've managed it 8 times.
Yes. I can't. Why, really? Dead mellow, not the least bit controversial.
There's been
it's all them Tories you have to go after, John, isn't it?
It's a great account, to be fair. I just John's always got to have his backups because he never knows what's coming next. So anyway, betting pointers. Let's get back to the subject. First question on the subject: if you use any, what's the best software form book to aid your selection process? For me, as I've banged on for years, it's Proform because it is a different class. I can find edges from Proform. It helps me also reinforce a bet, if you like. So if I like one on the all weather and it's by Exceed and Excel out of an elusive quality mare, and then I kind of know that's going to improve it, or should do, and just bits like that it teaches you. You can't use software really to find yourself winners, as in, oh well, he's picking me this. You've got to do it yourself. It's all variables. And what I say to most punters, try and keep things simple. Like trainers are quite simple creatures. They target courses, they target races. Mark Johnston, for example, who John loves, he'll run at certain tracks, and John will back their horses because he knows he'll go from the front. And there's certain tracks that suit front runners, certain tracks that don't. Same with Simcock. That's why we joke on the show about Dave Simcock. You've been Simcock when he's holding everything up out the back of the telly on front running tracks. It's not exactly rocket science. It's just a case of trying to keep it simple. Maybe look at things that you can find out cheaply, like the weather. So, for example, if you know there's a massive headwind, and that applies to the Curragh also. Curragh's a big bias track because when the wind blows from the west, obviously it's a tailwind coming in, so it's very hard to peg them back. When it turns to the east, then it's not so hard. It's not so easy to make, to be turning in front, coming in. So it's not things like that. I mean, look at Newmarket yesterday. Mega bias track. Like that's the one worry I have always having anti-post bets at Newmarket, because it's such a biased shit pit. I mean, literally, if you have a big tailwind, you don't want anything off the pace. You've no chance. It's the same. But when there's a headwind and people are still betting the front runners because it's a front running track, it won't necessarily be that on that day. So there's cheap things you can actually do that won't cost you a cent. Go on the Met Office, go on the Irish Weather. Don't listen to the Curragh Clark though; he's useless. Just literally do your own work and keep it simple. Follow the right jockeys, the right trainers for the right tracks. I mean, literally Listowel this week, I was doing some work and on trainers that do well there at this Harvest Festival, and I was surprised at like people like Padraig Roach, John Keeley, shrewd trainers that do really well at this meeting.
Yeah, but it's a farmers meeting, so it's all the local trainers. Like John Kiley hasn't been a good trainer since 2002, but
no,
he'll still have a winner. Still have a winner around Listowel or around Limerick or whatever when the cash is down.
I mean, who's the other one that doesn't train now? Deegan, I think it was around Listowel.
Paul Deegan.
Yeah, Paul Deegan. Yeah. He loves a winner around there.
Yeah, he lost that big owner, and he kind of folded after that. The black colours. Anyway, that doesn't matter. But yeah, that was the end of him.
But I think that's it. I mean, so I see John. I'll come to you for like any basic pointers that you think a punter could improve their game. I see you first. Yeah,
so I subscribe to the Racing Post. I know we all love slagging off the Racing Post, but for 44 quid a month or whatever it is in euros, I think it's 36 in sterling, whatever it is. It's actually really good value because you've all the videos in one place. It's the best database of form by far. You've all the sales information. You've all these little things that matter. But you know what's really underrated is that you have access to all the papers. So like the Racing Football Outlook, the Weekender. Yeah. Like if you have time, right? Time is everything in betting. If you have time to go through the Weekender and go through the Racing Football Outlook and read all those stable tours and put horses in your tracker and put a reason why you're putting them in the tracker, because you won't remember when the horse is running. It is unbelievable what information you can get out of it. And you'll know then when the horse is entered in Yarmouth, okay, well, gee, he thinks this is one of the best 2-year-olds he's ever had, or whatever. And you have a piece of information that won't be in the paper that day, but it is on the record. So these things, like I mean, if you're, no matter what you're betting, if you're betting football, if you're betting basketball, I mean, you have to read reports, and you have to, that's how you find things out. But there's so much of that information that's out there, but you just need the time and the discipline to put it in your tracker, put in why, and then you can. So then when you're facing into today's racing, you might have 4 horses in your tracker, and you can go through them and go, geez, that's actually a really good bet because I know this and this, blah blah blah, and whatever. It gives you a starting point every day. I think, but it just involves you doing the research. And I mean, it just involves you you just have to read the paper. I mean, it's literally as simple as that.
Yeah, one of your points as well you highlight, you make a good point, and I know a lot of punters will do this, but certainly a lot won't. And it's your trackers where you have to keep. If you spot something on a day like I might say, well, anything coming from off the pace on a certain track day, everything needs to go on massive upgrades trying to come from behind, like Newmarket on Saturday. Anything Tamarama, for example, Charlie Hills will finish third. That's in the tracker. My max bet on Saturday, that's in the tracker. It was the only one to come from off the pace. These are things that you need to note down. And if you do that, and it takes 5 minutes, literally, just type it in, say it couldn't win that day because nothing was coming from off the pace. Right?
Yeah, but it's so important to do that, because so many times I've done it. I put a horse in the tracker and it comes up, and then I'm like texting a few mates going, "Did you tell me to put this in the tracker? Because I have no idea why this is in the tracker."
Yeah.
And then you're trying to go back through weekenders from a month ago, trying to find out why you put it in, and you're just wasting time. So just put it down clearly why it's in there. And it just gives you a great starting point then. For especially especially on a Wednesday when you're looking in your tracker and you're like, okay, what's entered at the weekend? Oh, that's priced up at 7-1. Well, that's interesting. Well, hold on, maybe that's not a 7-1 shot. So it just gives you a great starting point, because no one wants to open the paper every day and have to start from scratch. You need to have something built up. It just gets your eye in as well. You're just more in tune with everything.
It is. I mean, this is the thing. You mentioned another good point about time, and with the game evolving as it is, with so many meetings, if you haven't got a good note system or a good system to save you time, the great man said it. Patrick Veach said it on his Star Sports interview. It's all about creating time, because there isn't enough time. There's not enough time.
No, there isn't. No.
To go through everything. So save yourself time, give yourself quality of life as well, and not having to spend hours and hours and hours watching back. And
that's it. You can't if you're starting every day from scratch punting, well, you're just going to burn yourself out, and you're just going to get bored of it as well, because it's just too much. You need quick ways in, by just having stuff noted down or whatever. But like I said, I mean, like the weekend of the Racing Football Outlook, I mean, they're completely undervalued for the amount of information that you can get from trainers, just comments that they'll make about horses. It's well worth doing, especially now for the jump season when it's quieter, and there's less racing on. There's no excuse not to really get stuck in.
Exactly, and never dismiss certain analysts either. You might have a go-to analyst that sort of goes through the races. It could be Simon Rowlands doing the sectionals. It could be anyone going through the jumps that you respect. Don't dismiss them as they're just a media shit or a pundit.
I would agree with that, but the only thing I would say about that is that they're more overanalyzed. So if Simon Rowland puts one up, the price is likely to go or whatever. Agreed. Whereas like there was just off the top of my head, there was one this year where like Charlie Fellows kind of said, "Oh, this horse finished third in Newbury. It's the horse he ran in the National Stakes. I can't think of the name of the horse, but he just said, "Oh, this is probably the best 2-year-old I've ever had." And I'm kind of looking at this statement going, Jesus, that's a big statement for him to make. Like, it's not like Aidan O'Brien. If Aidan O'Brien says it, you ignore it. When Charlie Fellows says it, you go, okay, that's worth noting. And I think he was 11-10 the next time, or 5-4. I mean, he absolutely hacked up. But if you haven't read that comment, well, you're just going to pass that race by on that day. So things like that matter. And when you're going into the jumps as well, with is a horse going chasing, is he going hurdling? If you all these little snippets of information, they'll all add up, and you'll end up finding good bets because of it.
John, anything like any pointers you could point people in the way of? Obviously, I know your value in terms of your career in the sport, in terms of spotting horses through their physical being and stuff. In the regard, I hold you in that. Anything that you could point anyone to do?
It's difficult for me to sit here and say, well, you need to look for this, you need to look for that, because half the time I don't even know what I'm looking for until I see.
Lionel Richie didn't know either.
It's true, I mean, I couldn't sit here and tell you, I look for this, I look for that, but then when I do see it, I sort of think, yeah, that's it. One thing I would say is when you're looking back on your bets, spend an awful lot longer on your losers than you do waving your dick around over your winners.
Bang on.
Yeah.
And that brings us into the next subject perfectly, actually, on market drifters. Because and this is a common conception, and I'm not dismissing, your average Joe punters that see an horse drift from 4s to 10s and immediately scream bent. There's so many market variables, I feel, with drifters. You could have syndicates laying them and money flowing back from the Far East. There's a lot more money being placed, not on the exchanges now. You could find late money just for a tip that forces a horse in short. You could have a yard that don't have any gamblers. The trainer doesn't gamble. The owner's an 80-year-old that just can't be bothered. He'll have 50 quid on and tells no one. There's lots of reasons why horses will win at 130s, and there's lots of reasons why horses will drift from 6s out to 15 and win, and lots of reasons why horses will drift from 6s to 15s and lose. And what you said there, John, about analysing your losers, sometimes I'm guilty of it. I can't. I'm like screaming at the screen saying, "Why? I've just took 4s this. Why is this 8?" And some of the time, and it happens to everyone in the game. Sometimes you've just got it wrong. You've either called it wrong. Sometimes it's not. It could be. So many variables. Could have pulled to post. It could have had a bad journey there. It could have absolutely. It could have. I'd poured 3 buckets of sweat out and had to be cooled down in the pre-parade. There's so many instances of problems of why a horse wouldn't run its race than just simply a jockey.
And also, I'd say to that, Lee, sorry to cut across you. It's often, talk about information. There are often horses that show absolutely nothing at home. So I suppose, you get a situation where the stables say, well, this is showing nothing, ergo, that they don't think it's in particularly good form. So you often see that where horses drift, you think, oh, this is natty, and they dot up. So, it could well be that the horses show nothing, and that's translated to the market.
I've always said the best ones are from the Newmarket stables, and I've got a few contacts there, in various ones, and the best ones are. I'll ask the question and I'll say, what's this horse's ability? Well, it'll run to 65, 70, but it's not much good. But a lot of them can't read that 65, 70 wins that maiden. And because it's slow, that's why they go off 12s, because it's and they're the best ones. I've found over time, you don't want the speed balls because there's another thing about information. If you ever get information off yards, I can guarantee you over 50% of them will be keen if you get info this horse is a flying machine. Because that's what they do on the gallop. They burn it up. They burn the gallops up. They beat you, and they do it nicely on the bridle. But they're very keen. So and they're keen in the race, and that's no good for a debutant because then that's when you burn out of petrol. So a lot of the information over time I've learned to use well and sparingly. And I've had my best punts out of stable information have been horses that have been slow. That I know that the second favourite's Jade Egg, the third favourite is only like 60 or 65, and they're the best bets. They're the absolute, they're the stunning bets, and that's it really. So market drifters, there's so many variables. Like I say, you've only got like a good Newmarket contact to say this horse, I can't see this winning today to his main punters and bookmakers. And then,
but if you want to tear this apart, market drifter from where? Like what? Like is the morning price? Are people pretending that the morning price is efficient? Like, do they know how prices are created?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the thing for me is that right, it's the old common maths thing. If we're backing 8-1 chances that go off 5, we're going to be very wealthy people. If we're backing 8-1 chances that go off 10 and 12, it doesn't matter what variables are behind that. We're going to lose money. That's a fact. You don't want to be backing. I analysed my own performance in the last year, and I think I had something like 82% short and 18% drift. And I think the ones that drifted, I lost 35% on investment.
Oh, that's a given, yeah. That's an absolute given, yeah.
So I thought I'd do it just for sport, and so it proves that So some of that time when punters all automatically blame a trainer or a jockey or an owner, saying, "Oh, they've laid it on the machine." It's not always that. It's just maybe our analytical approach is wrong.
I'd go further, and I'd say it's almost never that.
Yeah, I think it's rarer than we think, and he probably won't thank me for this, but an owner I know, Dan Gilbert, has always maintained that. And he said the bentness that we actually think is in the game is massively overrated in terms of like jockeys taking a few quid out. It was probably most rife back in the early sort of mid 2000s when Betfair came along and the liquidity was massive, and you could, if you wanted to, you could take out absolute fortunes. Now that's not the case. You try it now, taking lots and lots of money out of a horse without it, it's not easy. It's not easy to get on. So I mean, that's the thing about market drifters, punters. I would just literally say that there's many reasons why they do, but obviously as a punter, we need to be ahead of the price. That's the idea.
I think as well that like people that people in the media or whatever that talk about betting, they get it wrong in that every time a horse is gambled, they kind of let on that connections have got a touch here, when it's probably some guy sitting in Israel has had 40k on the horse because his model makes it 2.14. I mean that like people kind of don't realize how these markets work and who's actually driving these markets. So look, I'm sure there are drifters, there's dead ones and that, but it's just not as prevalent or not done in the way maybe that people assume.
I agree. I always try, if anything, I'm like self-loathing. I always try and blame myself. If I've backed one at 4s, it's gone off 8s, then I'm always looking to myself first. And I think that's what every punter should do. Was that all you?
Was that a 4-to-1 chance? Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it a 4-to-1 chance?
As well about just about what sites to be using. Like you have to have a Timeform Betfair login because it'll give you all the BSPs for every race and what price they were matched in running, the in running low. That's a very useful tool just to just to see okay I backed this horse at 7-1. Well, what did Betfair send it off? Or even if you're looking at a horse, let's say it's running first time in a handicap. Well, what was the BSP in its 3 maidens? Like, was it ever fancied, or did the models fancy it, or whatever? Things like that are useful to know. Going forward.
Indeed, helpful tips there. We'll go on to commission agents. Questions we've had a few of regarding obviously getting bets on without intrusive financial information being given. Where do we find these commission agents? Personally, myself, it's a fellow I've used for a while via WhatsApp. He gets me on various bookmaker sites. I presume that everyone can find one. I don't think it's too difficult in this day and age. If anyone wants to DM me, I'll pass you his details on, certainly. But I don't think he'd have any objections as long as you deposit him some money. But like everything, I'm suffering at the moment getting paid because obviously accounts frozen. Betting accounts are being frozen all the time. Court action is having to be taken to get the money unfrozen. So it's a delay all the time. It's just you're working behind to get paid. But if you want the prices and you want the fun and the swing,
but the prices are no good, Lee, for not getting paid. I mean, it's just pointless. I mean, it's such torture. I mean, look, you can get bank accounts frozen, you can get betting accounts frozen. I mean, and it just like we're talking about time. This eats your time alive.
It does.
I'm very much of the opinion now that let's say that horse next week, Waterville. Okay, it's 8-1 with Ladbrokes, right? Do I actually want to go to Ladbrokes, have the hassle of trying to get the bet on, staff telling me it's online only, all this nonsense, or do I want to walk into a Paddy Power and try and have a proper bet at 6-1, and they'll likely entertain you, and you have that docket in your pocket. If the horse wins, you'll get paid. Like, that is so important. Like, you don't need, you don't need to get top price all the time. Sometimes you just need to get on, be on, get paid. And, the slip is actually, like, we'll say 100 quid at 6-1 when the docket is actually physically on you is worth more than 100 quid on an 8-1 with Bet365 owned by someone in Brazil that is going to have to send you the cash through PayPal or something, because you have to win twice there.
Yeah, no, I take that. Yeah, with the amount that I'm kind of owed at the moment, yeah, I'd kind of feel that way as well.
Is it 5 figures?
Oh, it's plenty. It's more.
Yeah, no. See that's not good then, and that fucks with your head then, and it'll affect your betting. And I've had that happen to me over the years, and like a friend of mine warned me. He said this won't be good for your punting. I don't think I backed the winner for 4 weeks after, because your head is gone. Your head is gone, and you have to avoid that. You have to avoid that in betting at all costs.
Win a winner, get it right, all the elation, and you don't get paid.
It's horrendous. Yeah, it's absolutely horrendous. Yeah.
I've got my Betfair account's good on the exchange. It's a very high turnover account. I'm close to premium charge, but not close enough. But that doesn't worry me. I mean, it's one of them. Like I can only play on the shows really. There's no point me going in the morning.
Yeah.
And then I'll have 2 different assessments. In the morning I'm saying one thing, and then in the afternoon I'm saying another.
Let me give you a pro tip here, slightly facetious, but if amongst the smaller punters in our sort of listenership, if you use the machines, the terminals that place the bets in either Ladbrokes or Coral or Hills, etc.
Yeah, go on.
And obviously you've got to check to make sure that the price is not massively under what the internet price is. But if you have that and you get your ticket, make sure you don't ever leave it on the sideboard out in the sun, because the print on those things fades within 24 hours. And I had a cricket bet last year, which caught, right, went to pick up the ticket, and it's a fucking blank piece of paper. So I had to go back to the shop and explain to an incredulous manager that I had, like 15 quid each way on the Warwickshire fucking Cosmos or whatever at 20-1 on or around the date, which I couldn't remember. It was a 3-week period. So they had to get someone at the head office to track the whole audit trail of that particular machine. And it took about 3 weeks before they finally identified this bet.
What firm was it?
It was Ladbrokes. So listen, they were helpful. It was entirely.
Yes, all you have to do is you just download the app, and you can scan the bet onto the app, and it's there then. It's there then forever.
Didn't know. They see. I had armies of staff looking at this thing, and there was 15 quid each way. What was?
No. Having said that, I was in Malaga with a couple of friends from Paddy Power once, and I had 10 grand on a Boyle Sports app from betting slips that were scanned on there. So the money is actually on there. It'll show your balance, and you go into the shop then, and you can scan it, print off your receipt, and go up to the counter, and you get paid. I left my phone in a taxi.
Oh,
so we paid. I think we paid a guy 100 quid, another taxi driver 100 quid to find the other taxi driver and get the phone back. I mean, oh my god, that was not a good sweat. That was not.
That's info. But yeah, the that they print on these things, I think it must be invisible ink. It's sort of like spy stuff. It turns into nothing in 24 hours. It fades really quickly. So
yeah, Jesus. Yeah. But another pro tip: if you're scanning the bets onto your phone, do not lose your fucking phone.
Oh yeah, that's there you go. So you learned something now. I'll have to check it out now.
Brilliant story. Okay, before we come on to a few questions at the end, coming towards the end of the show, John. Future for the Queen's horses with Camilla in charge. What do you reckon?
I don't think a lot will change initially.
Yeah.
I can say getting slimmed down, because I think I did hear, I haven't checked this out for myself, but I did hear she's had more runners this year than any previous year, which surprised at, but I've no reason to doubt what was said. But she does seem to have horses dotted around all over, well, all down south obviously, but seem to have plenty of runners in different.
In slimming down though, what would that entail? So, like, obviously, you look at a current stock
you don't. Camilla has enough understanding to get rid of the shit road mares and probably get rid of the shit racing advisor as well.
John Warren.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's it. So the key is John Warren, really. Sack him, and you'll prosper.
I'm not saying anything about the Queen, or I lose another 300 followers. I'm tapping out on all things the Queen.
Very wise.
Yeah, there we go. So that's the one bit we've got on the Queen on this show. Right, questions time. Okay, someone's got concerns about the BHA chairman, Joe Suarez Smith. He comes from a gaming background. He's a very successful entrepreneur, bought many companies for big profits and sold them and stuff. Very heavily involved in that gaming side of field and gambling. He's got owners. He's an owner of horses. He's got horses with a few British trainers and I think one in Australia. So he's quite. His dad, I think, was a bookmaker. So Joe Suarez Smith, chaps, what are we saying? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is this going to get him in bed with the big corp in terms of? Because I'm sure he's got a game. He's heavily involved in a gaming, like the online gaming, betting platform, something. Is that a problem if you're BHA chairman, or is that a good thing that the fact he's sort of very gambling knowledgeable? John, I'm coming to you first.
I don't think it really matters at the minute because the whole structure and setup is geared towards it just being Sarsfield anyway. Somebody needs to come in that's going to get hold of this. He won't. Harrington hasn't. There's no hope at the BHA. There's not a glimmer of light there, until this is all smashed up, taken to bits and rebuilt with some people that have regard and love for the sport involved.
That's it, that the BHA don't seem to have much power looking at ways. Every BHA chairman that's come in has literally been able to do nothing or next to nothing. Make good sound bites, but literally change nothing.
I don't kind of follow the politics of it that closely, but I just worry that the bookmakers now are so big. Like, look how big Flutter are.
Yeah. And
even Ladbrokes Coral. Like, if these guys have any say, they're, we're not getting anything our way, are we? Like, they're going to completely run the game over. Like Flutter in particular, I'd be most worried about them, because I mean, how big they are now is ridiculous. Would it be allowed in any other industry? How big they are?
No, absolutely not. And I think this is where you're correct, Icy. I think. I think they've got too much power. They literally can change the game as they want to change it. Hence, if they didn't want these affordability checks, they wouldn't be bringing them in. But I've got some like interesting sort of like conspiracies here that Truss is apparently scrapping the gambling reforms, just ripping it up, saying no. Now, is that Truss, or is that Entain and Flutter that have realised they've probably gone too far with this data grab, and they're losing clients and punters, and they've seen this, and it's not good really for the UK sector. We know they're big elsewhere and in other countries, but I wonder if they've seen that and big corp said, well, maybe we don't want this in the UK. It's not really working, because all it's going to do is cull punters. That's what's been happening across the board. The punters can no longer get a bet. Really, it's nearly impossible.
I mean, I like a bookmaker asked me for something the other day, and like I won't even go into detail, but it was Flutter, and I was just like, where do these bastards actually draw the line for what they'll ask you for?
Yeah,
like this wasn't even details about me. This was about details of a third party. And I was just like, what, where in the name? Like, a guard can't ask you for this. Like, it's just incredible, just how obnoxious they are, I suppose, in what they think they can ask you for as a reason not to pay. Look, I don't give a fuck whether they pay me or not, but it has gone too far, hasn't it?
It has. I mean, I've had punters contact me saying that they've got a business on the sideline, and so they take money out of the business as drawings, as wages, and then it goes into their current account that then they put into Paddy Power or wherever. And then Paddy Power, whoever, has come back and said, we want to see the bank statements of the business.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's like they're asking you for something, a third party, which is completely in breach of data protection. And I thought they were all about data protection. Well, so they're all for data protection when it suits them. When it doesn't suit them, yeah. Give me your missus's 2 years bank statements there. Let me have a look at them. Like, what the fuck? What do they act like?
The whole culture of compliance officers across across all sections of the banking industry and obviously the gaming industry. Compliance officers, in my experience, are frustrated policemen, right? They forget that actually they're there to validate transactions, not to look at the underlying source of funds, because how far do you go back?
Yeah, and look, these people are on 20. These people are on 25 grand a year, and they're ruining the game. Like
they want to be policemen. Yeah. A lot of them I know, forget that they're compliance officers, not financial crime investigators. And as I've always
fair point.
It's a fucking bet. You're not buying a house, a business, or making a bet. You're having a fucking bet. And it's ludicrous. It's absurd the amount of disclosure you've got to give to have a bet. It's mad.
Yeah, and I've big respect now for the bookmakers they'll close you, they'll make note, they'll send you an email. Yeah, you're closed. Fuck off. But here you go. There's your dough.
Yeah, fuck off. Here's your money. Don't darken our door again.
I mean, that's all we want, isn't it?
Yeah, that's fine. You don't want to bet a winner and think, oh, I'm going to get paid, and say, well, before we pay you, we want X, Y, Z. And a lot of people for legitimate reasons, don't have that information to hand. They just don't. And then at the point at which the compliance officer says, well, we need more info, there isn't any more.
Yeah, like info. if you're a professional gambler, you're a money launderer by definition.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, you're a criminal. Yeah.
The money launderer will have that information to hand, because that's what they do. That's why they charge 15-20% to launder money. So out of all the bits of paper you need going back, your average Joe, fuck it, I haven't got all this information. I don't know where it is. When you're talking about relatively small sums of money, it's mad.
Yeah, and do you know, when it really it really annoys me then when I'm talking to friends of mine and they've had like a good Cheltenham or something, and they've won 3 grand, and then they're 3 months trying to get paid, and it takes all the good out of it.
Yeah.
Like, we don't win all the time. Sometimes we do our absolute brains. So when you win, you just have to get paid. So it's ruining the game that way. It's horrendous, really.
Yeah, it takes the fun out.
It is when that bet acceptance, when you get confirmation of that bet receipt, if there's no cancellation of that bet from the bookmaker before the off time, there is absolutely zero reason that they cannot pay that bet.
Yeah.
It's a contract. You've entered that contract. You can't say after it's lost, I'm not paying you.
No.
So it's a contract, and that's the handshake. That's the online handshake that you've taken. That you've not cancelled it prior to the off. If you cancel it prior to the off, then maybe that's your discretion. Yeah. You're entitled to do that. I'm getting out of this wager. I don't like you. I don't want your business. I'm closing your account. I'd say that's fair enough. I don't think it's cricket, but I think it's fair enough from the operator. When the operator doesn't just pay because they're using legislation, that just tells you more about the operators now that are in charge than and the game's gone. The game's gone. But there will be court cases that I know on this, because I know for a fact they're breaching data protection. They know they are. And it might be mandated by the Gambling Commission, but it's not mandated in law. So if it's not mandated in law, it means when you go to a court of law and you say you have breached my data protection, then someone's got to be blamed, and that's either the Gambling Commission or it's the bookmakers that are doing this.
Yeah.
One of them.
Yeah. So someone is going to have to bring that case, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once a case passes,
they'll wait for a court case. They'll say, well, let's wait for the courts to tell us what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah. And let someone else do it so we don't have to.
Correct.
Yeah. And then on your social media, when you're browsing, you get all these promoted ads saying, "Have you had a bet in the last 10 years?"
Yes, but
have you been asked for documentation?
I've said that in the past. That there is a group action waiting to be put together. On they go for Google, Apple, all these great class actions, all third party funded. This kind of thing is a next source of litigation. I'm convinced of it.
But just to be fair now, I would say 90% of bookmakers this does not apply to.
No,
there's just a few rogues in there that are completely taking the piss. Yeah. Whereas the majority, like I said, you win your money, they pay you, they tell you to fuck off, everyone's happy.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. You don't. Yeah, exactly. No punter minds are being told to fuck off.
No.
After they've been paid. That's it. It's just when you get told to fuck off before you've been paid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I did a list the other day. I mean, Sky Bet are horrendous. Betway. I mean, Betway is the Wild West. That's not a bookmaker. I don't know what that is, but it's not a bookmaker. 10Bet. You're literally taking your life in your own hands betting with them. Unibet are doing some curious things, and I can't remember the last one, but yeah, I mean, but yeah. So like anyone I don't mention is probably okay.
Well, Unibet, when they first closed my account after one bet before the bet had run. How about that?
Yeah.
I bet a horse, and it collapsed in the market, and they said, "Look, we'll honour the bet, but your account's closed." And it won, thank goodness. They paid me, but they closed it before even the horse had run. Unbelievable. But I didn't mind because I got the money, So
well, that's it. That's the result. I have no objections to being refused bets. It's the bookmaker's entitlement. Why should they? Why should they lay people that consistently win money or will do them over time? I ain't got a problem with that. I'll have to find other ways. But it's just like what we highlighted here, that it's unfair when punters are winning money and then just not and getting nothing for it.
You're better off.
Yeah,
we're not. Couple of points under the odds if you can sure to be no point taking 10 to 1.
Yeah, well, look,
that you're going to get the money from.
That's exactly it. Rule number one is you have to get paid. That is rule number one of betting, and it's rule number last as well. You just have to be paid. There's no point punting if you can't get paid.
No.
Agreed. That's a fantastic way to end the show. We hope you've gained some knowledge from that. Icy starting the show off with a fantastic Yankee for this autumn. And we've covered a lot of betting topics there. Hope that soothes your head for the weekend. And we're back on Friday as normal with a team to provide you with more losers going into next weekend for Newmarket. So thank you, John. Thank you, Icy. Thank you, Chris. That's all from us. Bye for now.